maybe I should say howdy. I'm Jennifer, and I'm here with the cameraman, and we are doing a Minds in Motion on-demand activity video about farming. So we are literally on location at the beautiful Flower Shed Farm in Erin, Ontario, and we're going to be looking at a variety of artifacts that have been shared with us by the Guelph Civic Museum. So get comfortable, grab a cup of tea, throw on your straw hat, whatever puts you in a farming mood, and let's get started. So as you can clearly see, Flower Shed Farm is situated in this idyllic country setting. They offer horse boarding, event hosting, and in the spring, they just opened their new garden center. During the summer months, like right now when it's nice and quiet, you can actually order a hand-picked bouquet of flowers, like the one behind me here, which you can see is quite gorgeous. So if you're interested, we'll put their website in the description below. For today though, we're talking about farm life, and we've partnered with the Guelph Civic Museum, and they've put together an assortment of farm-like artifacts, and we're going to look at them and see if we can identify them. All right, so let's get started. Let's see what we've got here. So we're going to start with this first item here, which I think to me is probably the most farm-like of all of them. So I thought it was a good place to start. It's made of metal, so I'm going to be your touch here. You can look at it yourself here and examine it, shaped like the letter H. That might be a little hint, so keep that in mind. Not sure the type of metal, but definitely a type of metal, a little sort of bronzy in color. You can see the rings here at the end, so you can hear them jingle, likely attaches to something. What do you think this might be used for? So if you know immediately, that's great. If you're not so sure, take a little time to think about it. If you'd like to pause the video, perfect, go ahead and do that. I am going to give you a little bit of a hint, but before I do that, let's just take a closer look at it and really see what that looks like. All right, so I have a little hint for you if you're not sure. Just listen to this sound effect. Did that help? The answer is a horse bit. So there you go. So this horse bit, it's a piece of metal and it would fit into the horse's mouth, part of the bridle. So I guess these rings, I guess this part would go in. Gosh, you can tell I'm not a farm girl. All right, it would go into the horse's mouth and it would connect to the bridle with the reins, and it would allow the rider of the horse to sort of make that connection and direct the horse. All right, so I have a little true or false for you around the horse bit. So bits, so this is a question, this is a true and false question. Is it true or false that bits were sometimes made with a softer metal such as copper, so the horse's teeth would not be damaged? Do you think that's true or false? Again, stop the video if you need a little time. And the answer is false. So yes, they were often made out of copper or sweet iron, but it was not to protect the horse's teeth. It was actually to encourage the horse to salivate and relax the jaw so that they could put this in their mouth. So there you go. And then one other question for you. Perhaps you've heard the phrase chomping at the bit, but sometimes people say champing at the bit. So here's my question to you. Is it chomping or is it champing? What do you think? So the answer is, it's actually both. Either works. So you can either chomp at the bit or you can champ at the bit. Either one is correct. And the meaning for that, if you don't know already, is to be restless or unable to show restraint. So there you go. Chomping or champing at the bit. Right. All right, I'm going to get another item out, and as I bring it up, I'm going to show it to you. Kind of creepy, but also kind of intriguing. Hello. So as you can see, shape of a hand, right? We got 5 fingers, made of wood, very smooth, quite attractive. Got a handle here at the bottom, and you'll notice that it actually comes in 3 pieces. So I'm going to let you take a closer look at this. So what do you think this item might be? If you're still not sure, I do have some choices for you. So is it A, the hand from an original store mannequin? Is it B, a glove stretcher for tight gloves? Or is it C, a ring sizer? slide the ring onto a finger to see if it fits. Well, the answer is B. It is a glove stretcher. So back in the day, I guess leather gloves were worn quite a bit. They're still worn nowadays, but I don't know if you've ever got your leather gloves wet and they kind of get ruined, right? They dry up and shrivel. Well, back in the day, if you needed to make your gloves bigger or you needed to dry them out, you would basically fit this unit into your glove and it would hold its shape, or if they were quite tight on this unit, it would help to stretch them out, which makes me want to ask you, why do you think it's in 3 pieces? Which I think is quite a very innovative design. And the reason for that is that shoving this whole thing in a wet glove or a tight glove would be difficult. So you can sort of ease it in and maybe even ease it in over time to get the leather to stretch. So there you go, glove stretcher. Okay, I'm going to bring out another artifact. So I am bringing up this little metal unit here, and I'm going to give you a little bit of a description. Not sure of the type of metal that it is, silver, but certainly this piece is quite tarnished. It's got 4 little knobs here, 2 on each side that flip down this outside panel here, and then I'm going to turn it so you can see on the other side. And then inside there's more metal and possibly some coils. And if you turn and look at the side, you're going to see that there was a power source. So it would have plugged in here, so electric. Why don't you take a closer look? Okay, so now you've had a chance to look at it and think about it. What do you think this is? If you're still not sure, I have a little hint for you. Just give a listen to this little sound effect and see if that helps. Yeah, did that clinch it for you? So this is a toaster. It's not any toaster. This is called a turnover toaster. And I have a date of 1920. Pop-up toasters apparently came around not too long after that. But basically, it was electric. So the piece of bread would go in there, laying on the side, and then you'd turn it up. The heat would come from the center, which would toast the inside, and you kind of have to watch it. You'd flip it down, you'd have to use your fingers to turn it over, and then bring it back up again to do the other side. So there you go, turnover toaster. And I have a question for you. Why do you think society started toasting bread to begin with? Do you know what the reason was for that? There is a reason, and it actually was to prolong the life of the bread, which makes sense. I guess it won't stale as quickly if it's been toasted. So that was why toast started. And I also have a true or false question for you. So, true or false, was the toaster invented before sliced bread? True or false? Toaster was invented before sliced bread. What do you think? The answer is true, actually. The very first toaster was invented in Scotland in 1893, and it was called the Eclipse toaster. Apparently, though, it was not very popular at the time because sliced bread had not been invented at that point and people really didn't get it. Also, it was electric and electricity was not widely available. So there you go. All right, so the greatest thing since sliced bread, that phrase certainly works here. You needed that sliced bread in order for everything else to go along well. All right, I'm going to get another artifact and I'm going to hold this up for you to take a look at it. It's made of wood, except for it's got a metal piece here that seems to be going through the top, through the unit, and comes out at the bottom. And it looks like there might be a bit of a blade at the bottom, and then you've got this wooden piece. So why don't you take a closer look? All right. Okay, so what do you think this might be? Does this look familiar? Maybe some of you woodworkers out there might know what this is. So you've had a good look at it. What do you think this might be? I'm going to give you some hints if you're not sure at this point. If you need a bit more time, certainly pause the video. Even just throw an answer out there. What does it look like to you? Really no wrong answers here. So here's your choices if you're struggling a bit. Is it A, a wood plane? Planing the wood. Is it B, a paint stripper? Maybe you'd run it along and peel the paint with the blade at the bottom. Or is it C, a tool or blade sharpener? What do you think? Well, the answer is A, it's a wood plane. So a wood plane is a tool for shaping wood. So it's either cutting out or grooving into wood using this blade here at the bottom. So this is actually a molding plane, and if you were able to see at the bottom, it's got sort of a rounded blade, so it would groove out the wood to create that design in the molding. And apparently back in the day, there was between 300 and 400 different shaped blades that were used to make molding. So a woodworker would have a whole collection of these, and apparently people that collect old tools certainly try to get as many of these as they can. Let me ask you, what modern day tool do you think would have replaced this? This might be a question for the woodworkers out there. What do you think? Give it some thought. The answer is a router. A router would have replaced this. So a router would be electric, and you can change the bits, which would have the shape that would create the different types of gouging or marks in the wood that each one of these would have done. So this particular unit came from the probably mid 1700s to the early 1900s. It would have been used during that time frame. And apparently this blade gets wedged in place by this wooden pick. All right, and another tip you might want to think about that I found is kind of neat, if you could see at the bottom here, there is always a stamp on these planes, and they say who made it and who owns it right here at the bottom. Okay, let me bring out another artifact. Oops, came apart. Let's put it back together. So you can see all wood. There's a couple of little screws at the top here. You've got some nails, but it's actually in two pieces. So kind of like a box, and there's a hole at the top that this plunger type piece fits through. All right, have a look at it. Take a closer look and start to think about what this might be here, what this unit might be. Take your time, no wrong answers. Get creative. All right, so you've had a chance to take a closer look. If you're not sure what it is, I got a couple of hints for you, so bear with me. Is it A, a mousetrap? Is it B, a birdhouse, little bird? Or is it C, a butter press? What do you think? All right. If you think you know and you said butter press, you are right. So C, it is a butter press. And butter presses were used back in the day because you couldn't buy butter at the grocery store. You would whip the cream. So you would take cream, you would whip it to separate the butter from the buttermilk. The buttermilk would be put aside for other uses. And then you would churn, I guess, or continue mixing the butter with water, and then that would be put into the bottom of this unit, and it'd be chilled. And then when you're ready to get your butter out, you could run a knife around it and press to release it from the press. And if you can see there on the bottom, there are some markings, and that was to decorate the top of the butter, which is kind of a nice touch. So there you go. Here is your butter press. Apparently butter presses and stamps were used as early as the late 15th century. So we've been loving our butter for quite some time, and I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. I do have one more question for you. So true or false? Do you think butter is a good thing to put on a burn? True or false? Is it a good thing to put butter on a burn? All right, well, the answer is actually false. All right, so putting butter on a burn is not a good answer or a good solution for your burn, because that greasy substance actually keeps the heat in the wound and causes it to worsen. So really that's the last thing that you want to do. I think that was an old wives' tale. Really the best way to release the heat from the skin is with cool water. So if you get a burn, don't be grabbing that butter, just put some cool water on it. All right, I'm going to grab another artifact. Now this one's pretty natural. I think it's probably been made out of a thick branch. You can sort of see here the knot on the wood in the shape of a Y. It's pretty smooth, probably been sanded down. It's also got some holes here at the top maybe to hang it up somewhere. What do you think this might be? Take a closer look, if that helps. Okay, so you've had a little chance here to look at this. Did you know what it was off the bat? Did you take a guess? Do you need a little help? I'm going to actually give you a little hint. So take a look at this. Did that help? Hopefully it did. This is actually called a boot jack. Maybe you knew that. Sometimes it's also called a boot pull. So I'm going to demonstrate in a minute how it works, but basically it aids in the removal of boots, so you don't have to touch it with your hands. And you think of being on a farm or working outdoor, getting mud on a farm, maybe getting manure on your boots, and you don't want to touch it, so it definitely comes in handy. These have been around for a while, and they've certainly been recreated in different fashionable ways. Apparently back in the day, and maybe you have one of these around. Cameraman, I think your father has one of these actually. It would definitely be something that he would like. But back in the day, there was a design like a beetle. So the top part of the Y would be the antennas. There was also steer heads. That makes sense, right? The antlers or whatever of the steer heads. There was also one called the Naughty Nelly. So I won't go into any details about that. I'll let you use your imagination. Anyway, I'm going to show you how this works. Okay, cameraman, let's look at the next artifact. So I'm going to bring it up. As you can see, it's metal, or maybe you can't see. It's got a little bit of a plunger, a couple of handles on it. At the bottom, it's kind of like a cup, metal with little holes in it. What do you think, cameraman? Any idea? No. Cameraman has no idea. We actually have one of these, cameraman, at home, so there you go. Yeah, garlic press, he says. There you go. Do you think that's for someone who really likes their garlic? All right, take a closer look. Now that you've had a chance to look at it, it's not a garlic press. What do you think it might be? If you're not sure, I can give you a little hint. It's really designed for a vegetable with good eyesight. There you go. There's a little trick in there. So it's designed for a vegetable with really good eyesight. Cameraman, do you know where I'm going with this?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So this is actually called a potato ricer. So you would take potatoes, have their eyes, right? That was a little joke in this. So you would take boiled potatoes without their skins on. They would be put inside of this, and then you would press it down, and it not only takes the moisture out, but it pushes the potatoes through the little holes. So they're nice and smooth, kind of have a rice shape. So these are actually still used in many kitchens because it really is, kitchens today, because it really is a great way to make mashed potatoes. As I say, we have one at home. I did a little bit of researching online, so just to add to that, doesn't have to be just for potatoes. You know, you can do turnips, you can do sweet potatoes. Some mothers make baby food in these. So I did find an interesting use for these online. Apparently, if you're working with Play-Doh, it makes really great Play-Doh hair. So I thought that was kind of a fun one. I don't know if you'd want to do your mashed potatoes after that in it, but again, this is your rice, sorry, it's your potato ricer, okay? Some things just never become outdated, right? Always a use. All right.
Just like the cameraman.
Just like the cameraman, there you go. Right. So this is a metal unit. It's tied together for safety, so that tells you that it's probably sharp. Something, it's going to cut something, I would think. You got handles here, probably made out of, cameraman thinks cast iron, probably a good guess. Let's take a closer look, get the juices flowing, see if you know what this is. Again, if you know, that's great. If you're not sure, I do have a hint for you. So I've got a couple of options. Is it A mane trimmer for horses? So to cut the mane, Big pair of scissors for that. Is it B, sheep shears, or is it C, hay bale cutters? So you've baled your hay and maybe you got some ends of the hay hanging out of the side. You got to cut with these. What do you think it is? I'm going to give you another little hint. Here's a little sound effect. All right, did that clinch it for you? Yes, it is B, sheep shears. So you would use these scissors to shear sheep. So if you've never done that before, you don't know anything about it, which I didn't. So sheep's fleece grows continuously, just like humans. So you've got to cut it. Apparently about once a year, a sheep is sheared. And if you are a professional sheep shearer, it's kind of like a tongue twister, say that 3 times fast, you can apparently take the fleece. Blew that one. Okay. Take what, 7 on this one? Okay, cameraman, here we go. So yes, it's B, sheep shears. So you would use this to remove, you would use these scissors or shears to remove the sheep's fleece, which grows continuously apparently, just like human hair. It's got to be cut about once a year, which I thought was kind of interesting. And cameraman, when do you think would be the best time to shear a sheep?
Probably spring.
Spring, good. Well, warm weather, right? Because they get chilly when they've lost all of their fleece. Apparently, if you are a professional sheep shearer, you can shear a sheep all in one piece, apparently, in about 2 minutes. And cameraman's astonished, me too. The world record is 39.7 seconds. So you'd have to be pretty handy with these. And I do have one little final thought for you. So you've sheared your sheep and you're taking your sheep to the beach. What would the sheep be wearing? Cameraman, any thoughts? A bikini.
Oh.
I love those jokes. I'm going to pull out another artifact for you, and I'm going to hold it up here. It's definitely metal. I'm not good with metals. Cameraman, what do you think? Copper? No, it's silver colored. Pewter, maybe? This particular item?
Could be tin.
Tin. Well, that might be. Yeah, I honestly don't know. It's got a little handle, hollow inside. I did ask my son. He thought it might have to do with a vet and an animal, and I kind of let that go, so I don't know if that's what it is. Have a good look at it. Take a closer look. All right, so again, if you're a little stumped, you need a little help, I've got a hint for you. You have a choice here. Would this be an old-fashioned plant seeder? So you would push these tubes in the ground and you could drop the seed in. Would it be a B, a candle mold to make candles, or C, a tractor part, maybe part of the cylinders from an engine? What do you think? Give it some thought. Maybe you already know. The answer is B, cameraman knew, candle mold, right? So back in the day when there was no electricity, a lot of households would make candles on the farm, right? You would pour the heated wax inside with the wick, and then you would sort of loosen it once they had cooled. So apparently the cheapest candles were made from something called, actually cameraman, do you know? This would be the kind of thing you might know.
Beeswax?
Good guess. Tallow. Apparently tallow was cheaper, which is rendered animal fat. Beeswax was also good, but it was quite a bit more expensive. Okay, so I do have a little question for you. If I had some spermaceti candles, what would they be made of? Any thoughts? Any guess?
Prosciutto.
Prosciutto. Yes! No. Whales. I guess a sperm whale? I thought that was kind of neat. Apparently, whales, I guess it's the blubber, I don't know, make great candles. But, you know, these days probably not a good thing to do. Poor Moby. So there you go, spermaceti candles made from whale. All right. Okay, candle man. What do we got left? Next artifact. I'm going to bring it up here for you to look at it. Kind of a neat device. We've got a wooden handle. We've got a little wooden knob here. We've also got another little knob. It kind of spins around this piece here. What do you think this is? All right, take a closer look. Okay, and again, think about what this might be used for. You might know right off the bat, and if you don't, that's okay. I do have a hint for you. So I want you to listen to this little sound effect of the modern version of this. Okay. So yes, what would this be called? Hopefully you recognize that sound. The answer is a hand drill, a manual hand drill. So, you know, back in the day when there was no electricity, you would put the drill bit in the top here in, I believe that's called the chuck, and then you've got this little piece here that turns and that drives. It would drive the drill bit into the hole. So here is your manual drill bit. I do have a true and false question for you. So true or false, primitive societies used hand drills to start a fire. Do you think that's true or false? I'm looking at you, cameraman.
Yeah, maybe, for friction.
Oh, he's a clever guy. There you go. He's right. It's true. They did. So I don't have any more details, but I'm thinking maybe, yeah, friction, some kind of flint would make sense, right? You would build that. All right, we are moving on to our next artifact. Are you ready? Nice and shiny, little red handles on it. So take a look here. Again, metal. You've got sort of these pieces at the bottom, and when you turn the handle, everything's kind of interconnected and it makes those turn. So again, take a good look at this. You might identify it immediately or maybe not. Of course, I do have a hint for you. Take a closer look, and then when you're ready, the hint would be for this one. This tool will whip you into shape, especially if you like sweet things. Does that help, cameraman? You know what this is? Yeah, cameraman knows for sure. All right. So this is actually a hand mixer. That's what the answer is. So it's a hand mixer. It would be used just like it's used today with the electric ones to whip eggs, whip frosting, cake batter, cookie batter, all kinds of things that you want to mix up. So this would actually go, and then you turn your handle here. Okay, so this is a manual hand mixer. So just, you know, to add to that, a little bit of a fun fact about mixers, the KitchenAid stand mixer, which is of course an electric mixer, which maybe many of you have one. There's a picture there, that's actually mine that you're looking at. I've had it for many years, was launched in 1919. So I thought that was quite interesting. So certainly a piece of kitchen equipment that's been around forever. The problem is that it weighed 65 pounds, and I'm thinking probably still pretty heavy. I don't know what the weight of a modern day one is, but they had a really hard time selling it. The cost back in 1919 was $189. So think about that in today's value. That would be well over, you know, $2,000 or more. So people obviously weren't eager to spend that kind of money. So they ended up selling them door to door so that they could demonstrate all the different attachments and were able to sell them. And they're still around today. So there's a perfect example of a product that has really held with time. And apparently many of the original attachments still fit into the current units. So there you go. And of course, they're available in all kinds of great colors. So let me bring out another artifact here for you. This one is quite heavy. I'm going to hold it up, very solid, metal at the bottom here, wood handle, I'm assuming, at the top, and if I can make it work here, it actually detaches. There we go. So it comes off. So take a closer look. It is very, very heavy. It says Taylor Forbes across the top, Guelph, Canada. So this is a local item. Cameraman, do you know what this is? Again, we have one of these.
Yeah, I do.
Okay, don't say. Okay, so you've taken a closer look. Do you know what it is? If you're not sure, I got some hints for you. Is it A, an original curling stone. You know how you slide them across the ice? So is it an original, it's heavy, it could be, original curling rock or stone, I believe is what they call it. Is it B, a doorstop, right? Could be. Or C, a sad iron. What do you think? Are you thinking hard? Do you know what it is? Did I throw you there with those suggestions? It's actually C, a sad iron or an iron. So called a sad iron, so a type of iron, an original iron, used to press wrinkled clothes. Apparently the sad, there was a bit of an old wives' tale that it was called a sad iron because, you know, let's face it, women would be the ones that would be ironing the clothes back in the day, were sad because it was a chore they didn't like to do, very heavy, hot, they would often get burnt, but apparently no, it had nothing to do with the emotion of being sad. It's actually S-A-D-I-R-O-N, all one word, and sad apparently back in the day meant heavy and compact, and that's the type of iron that it was. Originally, the handle was not made out of wood, it was metal, so they would actually have to use some type of a glove to pick it up because it was also hot. Women would often get burnt using it because, you know, inevitably you'd end up touching it because it really holds the heat. And there you go, this is a sad iron. So here's a question for you. If you look at it, it's pointed at both ends. Any thoughts on why it might be pointed at both ends? Do you have any idea, cameraman?
Get into the collars?
Get it? Yeah, that would be it. Get into the collars, yes. No, it's because you don't have to lift it. It can go in both directions. So it saved the user a little bit of labor to not lift it up. All right, so just to kind of finish off with this, I do have one final comment about it. I have a little joke for you. So why is it a bad idea to iron a 4-leaf clover? Any thoughts? Because you shouldn't press your luck. Ah, I know. All right, well, don't be sad. This is the last artifact, but I think we've had some fun here today. We're gonna take one final shot and look at all these various items just to sort of capture everything in your memory, maybe to have a chance to have a second look. Well, that brings our program to an end. I want to give Flowershed Farms a very big thank you for allowing us to film on their property, and also the Guelph Civic Museum for providing us with these amazing farm-like artifacts. I hope you had some fun. I hope it brought back some fond memories for you, or maybe you just learned something new today. So either way, come back and do this program again anytime that works for you. Leave us some comments. Let us know how it went for you, what kinds of things you might like to see in the future. Otherwise, thanks for joining me, and see you again soon. Bye-bye.
If you are living in the Waterloo-Wellington area and would like to participate in our ongoing virtual or in-person Minds in Motion program, or interested in any other programs or services, the Alzheimer's Society would love to hear from you. Please feel free to contact us through any of the offices listed on the screen. Thank you for joining us today.